Mr. Vargas.
Hey, buddy. What's going on?
Hey guys, I'm Roger Wakefield, lead APV expert plumber, coming to you right here on YouTube Live. And today is amazing because I have a very special guest, Mr. Okay, now, that's what my problem is right there. Perfect. Mr. Pete Vargas, how are you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How's everything going?
Good, man. I'm excited to be here. I saw somebody post the Mr. Miyagi of plumbing. I'm like, wow. I mean, he does teach you how to wax on and wax off. So it's an honor to be here with you, man.
All the time. Well, look, number one, the honor is mine. This is such a privilege because I tell people all the time about my stories about going to social media marketing world 2018, learning about social media. And I walk in and I'm a plumber. So I'm thinking I'm going to learn to get better at Facebook. And one of the first days you're actually doing a session, a workshop. And I walk into one of yours because it's about your message. And I thought, you know what, this is really neat. And I walked in, I sat on the front row, and I connected with you immediately. Number one, you're in Texas. I'm in Texas. Uh, a lot of your story I just so resonated with, and you had a career choice to make. Do you come to Dallas and work in marketing, or do you go to Hereford, Texas, and work with a church? And you church chose Hereford, and it was an amazing story and a great thing for you. Number one, welcome to the show, brother.
I'm excited to be here, man. Thank you. I you made an impression on me that day. I remember you in the room. I remember you outside of the room that day, and consider you a friend for life, man. So
I completely feel the same way, and I'm making sure I've got my phone turned off. Yep, I do. So the neat thing is, and I talk to people all the time about what I've done on social media and how I've done it, but I've got to talk to you a little bit behind the scenes and say, look, I really messed things up. I did things backwards because I learned that day about working on my message, getting my story right, and learning how to tell my story in a way that people receive it.
mhm.
And I think that what you do for people is so amazing. But what I want to talk about is I learned that, and then the next day I learned about YouTube. And when
Mm.
I came home, I was like, I need to start doing YouTube because that's going to start making my phone ring. And you and I talked just a few months back, and I said, look, at this point, I think I had 35 million views. And I said, Pete, can you imagine if I had my message right
Mm.
from the very beginning? Instead of slowly working on it a little bit here, a little bit there, coming back every couple of years saying, hey, Pete, look, it's still not right. Let's work on it a little bit more. Man, can you imagine what life would be like had I got my message right and then got what's now, what, 47, 48 million views?
Man, That's, I mean, yeah. We, you and I talk about it, and there's no, people always ask the question, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, it would have been 20 years ago, but the next best time is today. And so here's the thing I do love about you. And I know all these people who follow you here. I see Ethan and Nuclear and Amber and Zena and Vinny from Vegas. Vinny, that just makes sense. Vinny from Vegas. I like that. That's got a good rhyme to it. But the thing that Roger does, Roger, yes, I believe you've probably left a lot of money and a lot of reach and a lot of opportunity on the table. But the thing that you do that a lot of people can learn is you just take imperfect action. Like, action is the key. Like, you took what you learned there and you went and applied it. Now, you didn't know everything, but you sure knew a lot. You knew a lot. And so that's what I love about you, is you go out and you take action, and that's what makes you very special. But yeah, a lot of opportunity definitely left on the table, Roger. There could have been a whole lot more that came as a result of it.
It's been fun though, and I tell you what, and it's not just you. And I always tell people about Pete, but there's more to Pete than just Pete. You have such an amazing team behind you that literally helps people do everything. It helps them, number one, figure out what is their story, how to deliver their story, and then actually how to use that to grow a business.
Yeah, no, I think one of the biggest pieces, whether you're a plumber or just maybe 6 months ago, my mother-in-law sat right here across from me. My mother-in-law, who was a nanny, or she was a daycare. She had an in-home daycare, not a nanny. She had an in-home daycare. So plumber, in-home daycare, it doesn't matter. What, or anything in between, like, it doesn't matter. She made a comment to me. She said, I feel like I have a story that the world needs to hear, that the world can be encouraged by, inspired by. And I'm like, you do. I believe that God has granted us the stories in our life to once make us stronger in those stories, but then it's intended to help make other people stronger. There's a scripture that says, by the testimony you will overcome. Another way to put that is, by your story they will overcome. Your story helps people overcome. Overcome what, Pete? How to do plumbing, how to be a in-home daycare, how to make money, how to do YouTube, how to have a better relationship with your spouse when it's not going well. Like, your story allows other people to overcome because you have already overcome it. And that's the beauty of somebody's story, Roger. And so everybody watching, I know we got a lot of plumbers out there. I know, but we got a lot of people out there that just have powerful stories. And I believe those stories are to be shared with the world.
Well, number one, I see we have Miranda Gibson in here, which is great. I love that. Here to keep us in line. And
Yes.
I'm going to jump in the chat here in a minute. And here's what I want people to think about is, number one, Pete, you're so good at helping people find their stories. And I've learned this from being around you and your group, your teams, everybody that the conferences that you put on. Have you ever met anybody that just really didn't have a story?
No. I think
Everybody does.
no. I think here's where people get confused. They get confused by thinking they have to have a grandiose story. And actually, there's this thing called universalism in storytelling. I'm talking about in storytelling now. There's a thing called universalism where people want to find themselves in your story. And so, guess what? You think you have to have a big story, like I climbed Kilimanjaro or I overcame this near death experience. Well, most people have never done that, nor will they ever do that. And so, a story is the time you fought with your spouse, or the freaking toilet exploded in your face, or the pipe burst even though you did everything right. Like, the story is a story that you had, but you learned from it and you were able to overcome as a result of it. And so, the more common the story, the more people that find themselves in that story. And when they find themselves in your story, they're all ears to listen, to say, how do I overcome? How do I get from A to B or A to Z? And that's the power of a story. Is the story opens up what I call the pathway to connection, Roger.
I love that. And that's what worked with me. You literally, you walked on stage, and actually it's funny because you were speaking next door at Traffic and Conversion. You had done a 45-minute session over there. I
Yep.
think you had 15 or 30 minutes in between. And literally, you come running in the room and like, you're like, look, I'm hot, I'm sweaty. How much time do I have? And how long am I going for? And you walked on stage and you started telling your story. Tell people your story. Tell people how you walked in and started doing what you do, and how you found a way to help other people change their lives with that.
Yeah, Roger shared a part of the story. I was in Midwestern state, Wichita Falls, Texas, and I thought I had my business degree. I was ready to go off to Dallas. I had a great high paying job, $80,000 a year. And I went off to think I was going to do that. And my pastor called me and he said, I want you to come over and take over as youth pastor, $18,000 a year. I thought there was something wrong with what he said. I was like, did you say 80? He's like, no, 18. And he said, our youth group has fallen apart and we want you to come back in here and we want you to come rebuild it. And I wrestled and I struggled and I knew I was supposed to do that. And when I went and did that, the number one thing that I wanted to do, because it was powerful stories that influenced me as a young man, when my grandmother took me away from my dad because of the abusive dad that he was being to me, it was the powerful stories in life that really helped me shape and form the man that I was and the man that I am today. So I said, my first Wednesday night, there were 3 kids there. And I said, I'm going to bring in CEOs and stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home dads and musicians and artists and like financial advisors and whoever to come share their story with my kids and encourage my kids. And here's what I want you to know. The more you tell your story, the more whatever you're trying to build in this world grows. I hope you will write that down. The more you tell your story, the more whatever you're trying to create or build in this world will grow. I believe one of the metrics that we do not track in our businesses is how many times do I tell my story or my company's story or why I do what I do. And the cool thing about that youth group is I brought in story after story after story after story. And we went from 3 kids on the first week, Jory, Stacy, and Mackenzie, to over 800 kids 4 years later in a town of 12,000 people, maybe 15,000, 12 to 15,000 people. 800 kids. It was the largest youth group per capita in the United States of America. And how did we do that? We did that because every time one of these speakers came in and shared their story, the youth group grew. Now, here's the profound thing, and this is why I do what I do. One of the men that one of my mentors said you have to bring in, as his name was Daryl Scott. His daughter was the first girl killed at Columbine back in 1999. She died. She left her family with 6 diaries and a paper that she wrote 1 month before she was killed called My Ethics, My Codes of Life. She knew what she stood for. And she came in and he came in and he spoke and he shared her story. And in the daytime, the kids were so deeply moved and they were crying and they were in tears. And I thought, as a 23-year-old, if it made this impact on the kids and on me, what if my dad could hear this message? What if my dad could hear this story? And that night at the parent event, I begged my dad to come back to the evening event. I begged him. I'm like, Dad, please come. I even recruited his two of his sisters. I bought them dinner. And that night there were 1,000 parents in the auditorium, 1,000 plus parents in this small little West Texas town. And Daryl shared his daughter's story and how she died for something, with this idea that she could change the world by being compassionate and kind. And his final challenge to the parents that night, and I don't know how many parents that we have here, but his final challenge to the parents that night, he said, parents, I didn't know April 20th, 1999 was going to be the last day that I ever saw my daughter. And he said, you have no idea how many days you have left here on this earth with your kids. And he said, tonight, I want you to go tell your kids how much you love them. And he said, and some of you parents need to go ask for forgiveness for your kids for something that you've done. Well, that night, my dad left that auditorium. Something looked different. I couldn't tell. But a few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from my dad. And he said, this letter, my wife and I read it. And he said, I'm sorry for the father I've been. Here, my son is having an impact on hundreds of kids' lives, and I can't have an impact on my only son's life. I'm asking you for a second chance to do things right. And he told me multiple times that he loved me. And I sat there and I was weeping and I was crying, and literally a couple of things that I would want the audience to know. That day was the day that I said, I'm going to represent people who have a message and who have a story in this world, because their stories and their messages matter. I knew that was what my professional calling was going to be. But the bigger thing that I want people to hear is nothing got my dad's attention for a decade. We went to church, we went to counseling. His 8 siblings, 7 siblings would tell him, you got to make things right with your son. His parents would tell him to make things right with your son. And then all of a sudden, one person shares their story. My dad finds himself in that story. And it prompts my dad to ask for forgiveness, to overcome a bad relationship, to overcome a bad relationship. That's exactly what happened that day. And Roger, you know the rest of the story. Today, me and my dad have an incredible relationship. I mean, my pops is texting me all the time. We're a little bummed out. We were texting last night because we got the beat down from the Denver Broncos there, you know.
Oh,
So we won't go to that one. But I share all of that because today we have an amazing relationship. I took my dad to the World Series a couple of years ago. I've taken him to Cowboy games, and today we have an amazing relationship. But it all stemmed from one person who shared their story, Roger.
and it's so wonderful because your story can be so touching. And I still remember that. And I know I've told you this before. I was literally sitting on the front row listening to you, and you start telling your story, and I'm looking at you, and I'm like, okay, this guy's not going to make me cry.
Mhm.
And your story it's very touching, and we all have stories. And I mean, think about it. And I mean, it's bad. I mean, your story is nothing crazy or wild or huge or anything like that. It's a story about connection. It's a story about heart. It's a story about what a lot of kids go through.
Mhm.
And to tell your story and learn to tell your story in a way that people do. I mean, your story touched me because it connected on so many different ways. And I mean, there's probably people watching that have stories almost just like it.
Yeah.
And when we learn to tell our stories and can get people to listen, now we can actually communicate because it's more than just telling your story. Somebody's got to receive that story.
Yeah.
And it's all in what is your message and man, a way to tell it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, right now in a world, we live in a world that's lacking connection. Like, I think nobody would disagree with that. We're living in a world that's dying for connection, especially with just how isolated we've been. And so the power of what your story can do, like what a story can do, is it literally can lower a person's wall. Like, I want you to imagine everybody you go up to, like, they have an imaginary wall. They have this filter that's going through their minds of like, what are they trying to get from me? What are they trying to take from me? Are they going to take advantage of me? Are they trying to charge me more for this plumbing or for whatever I'm doing here than normal? Like, that's what people's subconscious and mindset have in there. And what a story, a powerful story, a story in integrity, a story that you can literally lower that guard. My dad's guard was lowered. He was so sick and tired of people trying to tell him in his mind what to do. You got to do this, you got to make things right, you got to be better with your son. But finally, when he told somebody told him who he could be, and helped open up his heart before they opened up his mind. If you can grasp somebody's heart, it can lower that imaginary wall. And now you have access to their mind. Their mind is where the transformation takes place, by the way. The heart is what catalyzed it. The heart's either going to keep the wall up or lower the wall. And what a story can do is it can get the heart to lower the wall so their mind is willing to learn to be transformed. What happened that day at Social Media Marketing World that now has Roger not just be an incredible friend, but a client of ours and somebody who is like the model of what, like, we love who he is in this world, is his guard had to go down. And I remember him telling, like, I'll be working with you. I mean, I remember him saying
Uh-huh.
that, but there was nothing even talked about that day of my products and services that day, but he just connected. And if you can begin to connect with your people, it will lower their guards and it will have them want to go deeper for you, deeper with you in whatever that call to action may be.
And I love that because, and something you just said, we didn't talk about products, services. It's not like, hey, look, I've got anything to sell it. You came and you taught, you gave away value. You said, look, there's a slide up here. It shows a system and a process. If you want it, I'll send it to you. It's here. Take a picture of it. Do whatever you want to do. And this is something that I talk about. And this is one thing I did learn that day. And it did help me with my message because and I have YouTubers tell me all the time, you need a call to action. You need to tell people what you're selling. You need to get them to sign up. You need to get them to do this. You need to get them to do that. Don't get me wrong. I ask them to subscribe sometimes, or if they like a video like this, give us a thumbs up, share it with somebody. But I don't get in here and say, hey man, look, I'm selling this phone. Come buy it. I get in and I bring value, and I teach people how to fix their plumbing, or teach them how to get into the trades. What about people watching? Because I've got not just plumbers, I've got other tradespeople. I've got people that aren't even in the trades. For some reason, they find me entertaining, and I don't get it.
I get
I'm
it.
just a plumber. But people that are here, how can they use a message? How can they use a story to introduce themselves to others and have people say, "Wait, I want to talk to you about what you do"? Because that's how it was with me and you. Man, you just gave me some great information, walked out and was getting ready to say goodbye. And I was trying to get the next one. I'm like, look, I will meet you. We will talk again. And I knew then somehow, some way, I'm going to work with him because what you do is amazing.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
can people watching this understand that they've got a message to tell that could literally change their life?
Yeah. How do you connect with somebody, or how do you do that through the story? Is that what you're asking? Like, how do you have the story be able to, what
I,
help rephrase the
I,
question for me?
I understand how I connect. We've got people in here watching that know that they've got some kind of a story, or maybe they don't even know they've got a story yet. How can they learn to communicate either through social media, through walking into someone's house, or if they're asked to speak at their kid's school or something? How can they use a message to actually touch people's lives? People that don't
Yes.
even think they have a story.
Yeah, so here's what people in life want to know. Like, people are wired in a way with this thing called the seed of progression. They want to progress. They want to grow. That's what humans want to do. When we stop growing, it's not neutral. We begin to die. Like, we just, like, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, like, people begin to die. And so what is it that has people like think about it. You want to be a better parent today than you were yesterday. You want to be a better spouse today than you were yesterday. Like, you're constantly growing. So here is a frame that could begin to help you, whether you're talking with your teacher, a teacher of your student, you're talking with one of your kids, or you're talking with a potential client. Understand where they're at. Seek to understand where they're at right now in the shoes that they're walking in. Understand the shoes that they're walking in. You want to know why you guys connect so well with Rogers? Because he understands where you're at in your journey. He understands the shoes you're currently in, but he also understands where you want to go, the place that you want to be. And so, if you can help people understand, I know what it's like to be in your shoes, and I also know how to go to a place that you desire to go. And that framework, that you will begin to think about that framework, you're now thinking about the person, you're caring about the person, you're loving the person, you're concerned about whatever it is for the person. So, like with my kids, instead of just coming in and saying, Keaton, you gotta keep practicing at tennis. You gotta do this, you gotta do this. Like, I'm gonna pick my son up here, and in right when I leave this interview, I'm heading to pick my son up from tennis. So I have the concept of beginning to just get in there and kind of tell him where he needs to be. Like, Bubs, you got to be working on your backhand. You got to be doing this. But instead, when he gets in the car, this happened a couple of weeks ago, he said, yeah, my backhand, it's just not good. I just don't get it in. Yeah, it's kind of a poor attitude. So I could be right away and be like, poor attitude. Gosh, here we go. No. Man, Keaton, I remember when I was struggling with my backhand in high school. Like, my uncle Pudgy used to teach me, like, the thing that I had to focus on was my backhand, because it's the most unnatural stroke that you have. So, Bubs, I get it. Like, it's a difficult stroke. Now Keaton knows I'm walking in his shoes. He knows I'm right there with him. But he also I've gotten permission to take him to the place that he wants to be. If I try to take him to the place that he wants to be, he doesn't know that I walk in his shoes. And if all I do is walk in his shoes, he's not going to follow me, because I can't take him to a different place. It's not either or, it's both. So as you begin to tell a story, think about the shoes that they're walking in, and make sure that they grasp that they understand that you get that, but then also the place that you want to take them. And it doesn't always work because people's minds and ears can be closed, but that's the way to be thinking about it, whether you're talking with a customer or you're talking with a kid. Like, that's the way to be thinking about it, Roger. So it's just one little framework within the way of something that we teach.
I love that, and I just want to say something because I actually got to meet Keaton here in Dallas. He came to 360,
Yep.
and the neat thing is he's sitting here and he's listening to all these phenomenal speakers get up and tell their story, get up and talk about what they do and lives they've touched and things that they've done. And some of them are people just learning to speak. I mean, literally, they're there to learn to speak, and they start talking, and it's so neat. And I remember him saying, "Okay, look, I think I want to sign up for this." And I thought that was really, really neat because when you see the power that people have that can speak and can tell their stories, that have a message and deliver it, it's really neat. So I want to say it was neat to be there and get to meet him and get to just see the look on his face, say, "Wow, this is really neat what you
Yeah.
do, Dad."
Yeah. No, it's incredible. And the time I take that perspective and that's the way that I want to connect with him, like, that's the time that I actually see the outcomes that I desire as a parent versus just like going and trying to tell him something. And guess what? I'm guilty. I don't get it right all of the time. But when I do get it right, it's really impactful. It's really, really impactful.
I like that. And guys, look, I see that every now and then there's a couple of questions coming up. If you have a question for Pete, please put a Q in there and then ask the question. And we'll highlight those and Pete can talk about them as we go along. But Pete, there's a lot of people here, and this is something about me in the trades. And I realized this through interviews. I'm a Michael E. Gerber product, the E Myth. He was one of my first coaches. I'm the technician that's busy, 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 doing it, doing it, doing it. And I had to step out one day and say, okay, look, I'm the entrepreneur now. I have to start working on me. And your message matters, connects with me so much because, especially with everything that's been going on in the world today, people do need that human connection. People need, Brendan Burchard. I'm going through high performance coaching with him and a mastermind with him. And he's got a deal. He says, look at people and imagine they have on their forehead, see me, hear me, acknowledge me, love me.
Mm-hmm.
And how better to do that than to tell your message to them, to tell your story and let them connect with you on a completely other level. You talked from the stage one day for 90 minutes and I felt like I knew you like my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so neat. How can people here learn that message? What is it? How to get it? How to get it out there? And where to say it? Where do you just stand up on top of a building and yell your message out? Or do you strategically say, look, I want to tell my story to help get people into the trades, which is my message right now?
Yeah, so like Roger, let's take two angles from this. Roger is getting a message dialed in with helping get people in the trades. And so for him to put structure on it, and we won't be able to talk about it today, but we have a thing called the story braid framework, which just the most important thing is starting with the heart. You got to start with the heart. So Roger's beginning to structure a message around people who are wanting to get into the trades or wanting to take their business that's in the trades to a different level. He's got to be thinking about a message that connects with that person, where are they at, where they want to go. But what about you in the trades? You might say, how does this relate to me? And I think about one specific plumber who all they did is began to go like in a local community, like there's these, we call them stages, and they would get in like to a Facebook group of stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home dads or couples in a certain community. Let's pretend it's Colorado Springs where I'm at. And they would go share a message around big things that you can do to avoid the winter freezing pipes and the pipage breakages and the biggest 3 to 5 things that could happen in the winter months. And as they began to share and by the way, provide value to a group of people that could watch it, kind of like you're watching here today, all of a sudden they became the authority. Think about this. Roger is the authority. There might not be another authority that's doing what he's doing that I've ever seen, but they would become the authority. And also with the authority, you can begin to, more premium pricing, and you're the go-to resource, and so on and so forth. And so your message is revolved around helping people overcome a problem or a pleasure they desire or a possibility that exists in their life. Like, if you can get so clear on the problem that you can help people solve, like, they will fall in love with you. Like what Roger just said, people want to feel like you love them. All of those things that Brendan and I are, I would say, good friends. And we were on Zoom together 2 weeks ago for a couple hours, just him and I just chatting it up. And him, like, all of those things he said on the forehead, the most important one of those is people just want to feel loved. They want to feel loved. And when they feel loved, they feel served too. And so when you can love people and the problem, and by the way, people feel loved when you help them overcome a problem in their life. Like right now, there's somebody here putting up blinds and blackout shades and all of that stuff in my house right now as we currently speak. And I have felt him, I've told him a couple of times, like, I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. Like, tomorrow my wife gets home, and it's a really critical time in our life right now where this is going to mean so much to my wife. Thank you. I feel loved. I feel appreciated in a world where people aren't showing up for their work, or they're coming weeks later. Like the gentleman this morning is like, I'm there. I'm just running a couple minutes late. He made sure and let me know that. Like, I feel appreciated by this man who's in my home and doing something that's helping us solve a problem. What's the problem? In many places in our house, we look like people could just be looking through the window at us, or like right by our bedroom door. Like, it seems so insignificant, but it's not for me, and it's not for Kim. So if you can get really intentional around your message, solving somebody's problem. And by the way, it's really important to understand, a problem doesn't always have to be a pain. It can also be a pleasure. It doesn't always have to be a pain. It can be a pleasure. Like a pleasure, something that I do want. I want more happiness. I want more joy. I want more mental clarity. Like those are pleasures that I desire. And so just, yeah, if you can really do that, Roger, that's what I would encourage people around.
And people in here get to hear me all the time talk about, because I've got different coaches. I've got different trainings that I go through, and I consider you a coach. You're someone that I watch, that I listen to, that I learn from. You have coaches too. We don't get better without them, do we?
No. I mean, my coach right now, I meet with him every Wednesday at 9:15 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for an hour and a half. It's on my calendar every Wednesday. If I said Tuesday, I meant Wednesday. Every single Wednesday. I'm looking at it right now, this Wednesday, 9:15. And by the way, coaches matter in every domain in your life that matters to you. A coach in every domain. What do I mean every domain? Like, my faith matters to me. And guess what? And Roger knows this. I'm gonna share this with you. This is kind of intriguing. So my faith matters to me. My relationship with my wife matters. My parenting matters. My business matters. My health matters. Like, these things matter to me. So if I have something that really matters to me, there's this thing called, all of you know OPM. And if you don't know OPM, it means other people's money. You like to leverage other people's money. That's what the real estate world says. I'm bringing in a real estate term, OPM. I'm going to introduce you to what might be one of the most valuable, and Roger has never heard me say this. This might be one of the most valuable things that you learn from today. It's called OPT. You know what a coach and a mentor does? They allow you to leverage other people's time. The time that I save from the coaches and mentors in my life gives me, I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of hours back. When Grant Cardone says, because of Pete Vargas in my life, like, if I would have known Pete 30 years ago, I would have saved 20 years figuring something out. Like, what's 20 years worth to you? Like, that's a big deal. This concept of OPT, other people's time. So what do coaches and mentors allow you to do? they give you time back. They not that we don't have things that we're going to fall, but they help you avoid the traps and the wrong ways. So Roger, one of the things I do is I have real people coach me every Wednesday. It's a real person that coaches me in my company. But then over here in my Bible study in my faith, I have a course that does that. Alan Parr does that, who I know is a friend of yours.
Absolutely.
And I have I have other I'm going through a master's program right now on kingdom entrepreneurship. Those are both courses because I don't have an individual. So it doesn't always have to be a person. It can be a YouTube channel. It can be a course. It can be a podcast. But my encouragement to all of you, have a coach. And if you're trying to take your business into trades to a different level, you're in the absolute right place, like the absolute right place. You couldn't be in a better place.
Now, I want to say something here because you won't say anything about it, but you mentioned Grant Cardone a while ago, and I thought about you this morning because when I was working out, I'm listening to Tony Robbins, but you work with people like Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi. I mean, these people, Russell Brunson, these people are people that you work with. They're like, Pete, look, and there's a lot of names we can't even mention that work with you to say, Pete, look, I speak to people every day. I speak to thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, but you work with plumbers. I mean, life is amazing. And I love that you got down your message matters because it goes back to me always to look, we've all got a message that does matter. And I mean, you've been on stage in front of tens of thousands of people. I know you spoke at the White House. You've done some really cool things, but I think what you do best is you help people find their message and get that message out there. And I know that we don't talk about courses or products and stuff like that when you're on stage at Social Media Marketing World, but if and Sean Strong's in here and Julie's in here, and Julie's like, oh my gosh, I've got to start looking at the stuff you're doing with Pete. And the neat thing about it is if Sean or Julie said, look, Roger, I want to start at the very basic. I want to start at the beginning. What are you doing right now that's out there that somebody watching can say, look, I want to work with Pete because I think I've got a message. Because I'll look you in the eyes right now, guys, and say, don't think you have a message. You do have a message. Mm-hmm. And somebody out there needs to hear it because there is somebody in your place too that's in a worse spot than you are, that if they hear your message, it may lift them up and change their life. So what are you doing right now to help people other than let them know your message matters? Because we know that.
Yeah, we have a lot of things. We have a lot of resources. But the thing that I get, one of the things I'm really excited about, and I chatted with you about, is once a year, sometimes twice a year. This year it's twice a year, but it looks like it won't be until 2023 again, which not a lot of people know that. We do a thing called Platform Live. Like, we want to help build people's platforms. We want their message to be found, but we also want it to be heard. It's one thing to find the message, but it's another thing for the message to be heard by the people who need to hear it. So it's kind of twofold. It's we gotta find it and help you find it, but it's also got to be heard and seen. And so one of the things we do, Roger, is like in 3 days, and this year it will be virtually. It's all virtual, but in 3 days we help people really dial in finding their message, getting clear about it. We actually coach them and have them share it for 2 or 3 minutes in a really private, safe group, like with just a couple of people. And we help them really find that message, share it, and then help them understand how it can be heard. So whether they're trying to get more customers, or they're trying to get more donors, or they're trying to get more votes, or whatever they're trying to get, they're able to get that outcome that they're looking for. So we do that every year. It's called Platform Live. This year, it's actually, it's November 10th through it's 12th through the 14th. And it's all virtual. I'll be doing it from a studio in South Carolina, and it's all virtual, and it's very profound how we do it. So yeah, I'd love anybody out there that this is resonating for them to join us, Roger.
And number one, I want to say a couple of different things. Number one, it was going to be live in San Antonio.
Yes.
And I was so excited about that because it's like, I'm going to be there. The world is what it is right now. We all deal with it. And where he talks about getting out in little groups of 2 or 3 people. If y'all been in Zoom meetings, these are little breakout rooms. You're in person. You look at people, you write down their name, you ask questions, you listen to them, and then you talk and you get feedback from each other. And it is one of the coolest things because, and this is something that I think is really funny. A lot of people are afraid to speak because they think, people are going to laugh at me, people are going to boo me, I'm going to mess up. But the funny thing is, everybody in the audience wants that person on the stage to do well.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing because once you get up there and talk and you talk to people afterwards, you realize that there is so much truth to that. But I got to go to Platform Live before it was called Platform Live, and it is the coolest thing. And I mean, I had everything from teachers that there are people that are wanting to help teachers and speak to teachers to teach them about, at home schooling, about different things like that, to, I mean, multi-level marketing people that, I mean, just blew me away.
To
And
plumbers.
to plumbers, I know, the plumbers. And it is just, you have got some of the most amazing people there. And the neat thing is, we keep coming back. It's not just you go once and it's like, okay, got all I need. I'll see y'all later. We keep coming back and learning more to get better and better and better. And it's phenomenal. Who all have you got speaking at or coming to? And I do happen to know one of the judges, but who all do you have coming to speak this year or this
Yeah.
November?
Yeah, so it's a big, because we're building out people's plans and really specific. We have, I know we got some incredible judges that are going to be helping people with their stories, which is really profound. But we have the great Pat Quinn. Pat Quinn is unbelievable. And then we got
Amazing.
some special surprises on day 3. Some people who are, I think the biggest thing that gets in our way in getting our message out or growing our business or doing anything is ourselves, like our minds and our self. We get in our own way. So we've got some really profound motivational folks that are going to be there, some of the most followed in the world that are going to be there. We haven't really released those to the general public, but man, we'd love to have people. Like if you can go to joinplatformlive.com and make sure you do /Roger, because we can see that you're connected back to Roger. Joinplatformlive.com /Roger. And it's just 3 days of just a powerful way to get your message out there and to build your platform. So yeah, Roger, I mean, Pat Quinn and I do a lot of the teaching because there's a lot of workshop time. And then our judges are a big part of judging things too. So it's a lot of fun.
And I'll tell you what, I was there, like I said, I was there in November in Dallas. And I know some of the speakers that were there. I know some of the speakers that I think are going to be there in November. And it is worth watching these people because you get to listen to these people speak. And there you go, Miranda. You saw, I made her a moderator. So
They're
Miranda
good.
just put the link in there.
I love that.
Matter of fact, and I'll pull it up right there. But here's the thing is, there were people there that had never been. There were people there that, look, this is the first event that I've been to like this. And to see them and spend time with them. And like you said, you do these little breakouts. And when you talk to people and that first day, they're like, look, I don't know. I'm here. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. And you watch them evolve in 2 or 3 days. All of a sudden that third day, they're like, man, I know what my story is. I know what my BHAG is. I know how I grow this. I know how I do this. And it's really funny because I remember talking to you and Pat Quinn, the very first session I went through with y'all. And I remember talking and saying, guys, look, I'm a plumber. There's no stages for plumbers to get on. And I don't know if it's you or Pat, or if it was Daniel that jumped off and somebody came back and says, hey, I got a list of 20 stages right here. And it's like, wait, how'd you do that? And it's like, well, look, this is what we do. And there's so many people out there that think there are no stages for me to speak on. And I know Julie's in here. She's an etiquette and protocol consultant. Sean's a plumber. Architectural Sheet Metal 101 is a roofer. There's so many people in here that there are stages out there that you can't even imagine right now.
Yep.
And I mean, did you ever think you'd be speaking at the White House? That's probably not one you had written down. This is a stage I'm going to be on.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter what industry. Like I think Stu McLaren hit me up maybe a year ago, who's a friend of mine, and he's like, I got a challenge for you. I don't think you can find stages for this type of person. She does knitting. She's a big knitter. And within minutes, I sent him hundreds of stages that are where people who enjoy knitting go to. And he could not believe it. Within minutes, we sent him that. And so, yeah, I just believe that. Here's what I believe. I believe this. This is the core belief. And Roger, it's so fun being with you today. I love this. I love this. And so kind of I'm going to give some final thoughts to really bring this home, Roger. I believe that everybody has a message. I do. I believe your message can help people overcome, meaning overcome a problem that they're facing in their life. I believe that. I believe everybody has a message. I believe to get your message found and out in front of more people is what's going to help more people overcome that problem. And that's what we call a stage. You can call it a platform. You can call it a stage. I call it eyeballs and ears. How do we get more eyes and more ears on your message? And then the third component of that is how do we get more people, more customers to come into your world as a result of that message? That's what Platform Live is all about. And Roger, I think the thing that I close with, I told you about the time, like my mother-in-law was sitting across from me 6 months ago in October of October. It's almost a year now, excuse me. And she's sitting there and she's like, I feel like I have a story that I want to share with the world. And this past week, I was reflecting on that conversation with my wife because about a week ago, I lost my mother-in-law. She lost her battle with cancer, unfortunately. And I was sharing the story of her telling me about her story. And it's the first time I'm sharing this, so I might not get this completely accurate, but I'm sharing that story with my wife. And my wife texts me over 2 journal entries of her mom's, where after the conversation that I had with my mother-in-law right here, she went home and literally said, I don't think I have a story that anybody would want to hear. That anybody would want to hear. That was the first journal entry. And then the second journal entry was her outlining her story that she said she felt could inspire people to want to grow closer to God. And I read it, and it was so profound, and it was so amazing. And unfortunately, she never got to share that story. But I got to share that story on her behalf last Monday. And this is what I know to be true. Roger, I don't think I've had a message that I've shared had that type of profound impact like that since I was a youth pastor in Hereford, Texas. It was so profound, and I got to share it. This is a lady who didn't feel like she had a story. She didn't have a message, but then that belief system began to change. And this last week, I got to share her story and the impact that it had on the people in the audience. I'm telling you, that audience that was there to celebrate her life, their life got better because they're carrying out a piece of her legacy, her story. They've been challenged, they've been encouraged, and they're going to be better as a result of it. And that's what I believe we have the power to share in our stories and our messages, Roger.
Man, I've seen you work. I've seen you work with so many people, and it's hard to believe it's only been like 3.5 years, but I have seen you work with so many people, and I've got to talk to these people and see how their lives have just completely changed. And it's amazing that you know I got you for 90 minutes the very first time, and I mean literally when I walked out, I'm taking notes. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something that I cannot forget to do. And I knew I wouldn't. But 3 days, I cannot even imagine walking in to a training for 3 days. And look, I've done it many, many times. But all the information I got in 90 minutes to get it for 3 days and get to work on it and build it and actually, put pen and paper to it and write down your BHAG and say, look, this is what I'm after. I think that is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I love what you're doing.
No, I appreciate it, man. I love you, bro. So proud of you and what you're doing for the trades and what you're doing for so many incredible people. And I can't wait. I know you'll be there this weekend, so I can't wait to see your beautiful face. And
Absolutely.
thank you for the way you radiate into this world, man. You really, really do. You are a true definition of someone who loves people, and that ultimately is what people desire right now. Is they just want to be loved. They want to be loved. And so I appreciate you, man. I'm going to head out to get my little man, because I'm dad's with the kids this week. So
That's a good thing. Number one, I'm glad you got the blackout curtains up. I'm glad everything's going
yes,
good
sir.
there.
Yes, sir.
Got to take care of mama first. I get
Yes,
it.
you do.
Congratulations on that. What's next after you do this? And I know you're always thinking ahead. I know that people are going to come to this, and I know you're thinking ahead. There's no doubt in my mind. People are going to come to this, and I truthfully think they're going to come in. It's going to be like me. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, I just received so much valuable information. Where do I go and what do I do next? And I know that it literally does. It starts right here, 3 days live. And to sit down and number one, Pat Quinn. And I know we didn't even talk about him a whole lot, but he's amazing. I think he's an amazing coach. He's like you. He loves helping people.
He does.
And what can people expect after this? I know that you do these twice a year now.
Yeah.
But now, have you got back into the live coaching in Colorado Springs yet, in Milwaukee, or you still kind
Yeah,
of?
they have, but this is what I'd tell, and not even to go there. I'll tell you what I'm working on is for Pat Quinn and I are actually working on every single person walking out with their strategic plan based on who they are, what they do, the audience they serve. And so they're going to walk out with a clear strategic plan, like a clear 2022 plan that's really specific to them, so that they know what to do no matter what they decide to do or where they're at in their journey. They're going to walk out with a clear plan. And so that's the biggest piece that I want people to know, is they're going to walk out with a plan, and it's going to be really crystal clear, Roger.
And I love that, because focus and clarity to me are the two biggest things on earth.
Yep.
If you got focus and clarity, you can get done whatever you want to get done.
It's true.
Well, Pete, I love it, brother. I love you. You're fantastic. I love what you do for people, and it's all people. I have literally seen you in a room with 100, 200 people, and man, you make it through that room, and you're there for everybody. So thank you again, I tell people all the time, I owe you so much. I love what you've done for me. And I love being able to introduce you to my people and say, look, if y'all have got a message that you want to learn to tell, it's a great way to do it.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. I'll see you this week.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. You be good and be safe. And Miranda, thank you so much for being in here. I appreciate it. Pete, bye-bye.
See you
Enjoy
guys.
your time with your family.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye. All right. Bye-bye. So that was different. I've never done the interview like this before, but I'll tell you what, I knew that Pete had this going next weekend. And this is just something that literally it completely changed my life, because to be there to see this, it was wonderful. And Julie says, thank you, Pete. Absolutely. Here's what I want to say. And I like this too. Account, I meant you missed a little something, but the good thing is it will be up for the replay. And yeah, gonna have to see the start when it's done. Oh, I thought I clicked on it. Maybe not. There you go. Guys, I know I had some questions in here. If y'all will jump in and put your questions in again, I will start answering them. Sean Strong, number one, thank you. I saw the message you put up letting people know that. Here's the thing is, this is something that literally changed my life. And I want you to think about this from a trades point of view, not just from somebody doing social media, but from somebody that is a plumber walking into somebody's house. What if you could tell your message? What if, you could walk in and tell people about you, about the companies you work for, about why you work for them, about what your favorite thing is to do. There's so many different things that you could literally do to build relationships with people. And it may be just walking in and connecting with people saying, "Oh my God, I saw that antique car out there. That's beautiful." That may be something that's very important to them. So there's so many different things that by delivering your message, it can completely change everything. And you heard him talk about his message, what it was, communicating with his father. And I saw a guy, I don't know if he's still in here or not, the Texas Longhorn. Sean Strong, no comments from you. Uh, the cool thing is, I saw him put in, so where was Christ in all these messages? And I got to tell you, if you go in and you listen to the story about Miss Scott, the first person killed at Columbine, and Pete didn't go into a lot of depth with it, but also he didn't talk about how this father brought other people in, trained them to speak so they could deliver the message to so many schools because this young lady's message was all about Christ. And when the person came up with a gun and said, "Are you ready to die?" Or I don't remember if it was asked her if she was ready to die, or if he's aiming at two people. The young lady looks at me and says, "Look, shoot me. I'm ready to go." And when you hear this story from her father, it'll 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 touch you. It is really, really good. Oh, okay. So we got a question in here. SG says, "Need some advice. I've always been open shop, been working at the union for 6 months. They want to swear me in, but I want to go into business for myself. Not sure if it's worth it." SG, number one, what local are you in? Where are you located? And I asked that for a reason because if you're wanting to go into business as a residential plumbing company, which is what I am, you probably don't want to go in the union. They're not going to help you. Uh, and I say that just based on my personal experience. My local union really didn't do much for me, but cost me about $400,000, meaning that's how much money I sent them over the 5 years. Um, what I would tell you is if you're wanting to go commercial, it may be an idea. But then again, if you're in an area where your union does a lot for service, they do training, they've got a school for it, they can get you apprentices, they can get you plumbers, it'd be great. My people, my union, that they wouldn't even, matter of fact, God, one of the directors of the union actually told people one day, our union doesn't even do residential service. Like, well, then what in the heck am I sending y'all money for? So, be careful about it. They will screw you over. I know that firsthand. Uh, but, you know, there's good things about it too. So, yes, hook them, just probably not this year. Uh, yeah, yeah. Mr. Scott's presentation is amazing. All right. Nuclear Blue says grandfather is a retired plumber. Christmas is coming. Need a gift for him. Got any ideas? I would try to find something really special. I know Rigid used to do a commemorative edition pipe wrench. Uh, that was phenomenal. Uh, I would actually have a trophy made. World's greatest plumber. I know that sounds funny. You know, Cottonelle actually sent me this. Says Roger Wakefield, Cottonelle's number one plumber, and it's not going to focus. Yeah, because we don't have it on automatic. But y'all might be able to see that. Roger Wakefield, Cottonelle's number one plumber, and I love that. I would literally think about, does he still do things? Does he still work on things? I've got a little multi tool that I normally carry. There's so many different things that you could look at that he may just love it. So what I would do is ask him or ask his wife or your parents or somebody, does he still do anything? Uh, George Anderson here says, and speaking messages, Mike Holmes' message is make it right. Do you have any things like that pertain to plumbing? My father is hot on the left, cold on the right, and crap doesn't go uphill. Man, you're about right. Uh, Mine are just plumb better and just plumb it right. Uh, and if it's not right, don't do it. So there's different things like that. Maybe if it's not plumb, don't do it. Uh, Different things like that, but good stuff. Okay, so 286 out of Austin. Okay, Austin, I think, actually does a pretty good service training. So what I would tell you is, and you probably know because if you've been in there 6 months, are y'all doing service work? Do they have companies that are doing service? And I'd go talk to those company owners and ask, hey, is the union good for y'all? I think it's good. His name's TJ. Used to be over the instructor training program down there. Not sure if he still is or not, but I think Tony's amazing. I think TJ was amazing. And also Tony. Tony says he's the number one plumber. Good deal. Uh, Mike Hadfield, what's happening? Says starting his pipe fitting apprenticeship next month. Good for you. I'd be excited about that too. And Miss Miranda Gibson says, I'm a renter. Beyond a plunger, what is the number one tool I need in my home to avoid long waits from the landlord? Having a wrench, and I guess it was out in the shop a while ago. Miranda, depending on where you're located, having a wrench to open your valve box, and I know some municipalities are getting up here where they don't even want plumbers opening the valve box, but to be able to open the meter box where you can turn off water, if you've got a flood in your house, even if you're a renter, you need to know how to turn that water off. And the reason being, I mean, your furniture is liable to get messed up. So just to be able to go out, open your meter box, turn that water on and off makes all the difference in the world. And absolutely, we always do it safely. Sean Strong says, if I had an extra $250, I would trademark plumbing don't care. Say it all the time. And man, that's a good one because man, you're right. The plumbing don't care. Uh, Now, some of the old plumbers I used to work with, uh, guaranteed not to leak, seep, rip, drip, bust, rust, or run out the side. That's a good one. And from 30,000 feet up in an airplane, it looks good to me. So, a couple other good ones. Pipe pliers, yeah, tools to have around. Plungers the best. A pair of channel locks, a crescent wrench, anything to where if you just need to tighten up a nut just a little bit, something like that, it can really come in handy. Pliers can be the number one tool, absolutely. And Miss Miranda, you are more than welcome. Oh, it's not what I thought it was. SG says, I'm in service commercial. I do want to start a residential service company. And then what I would do, SG, is ask them if they have residential service companies down there. Dallas told me they didn't, but they were wanting to, and they were going to grow the school and do this and this. They have not done anything. So, kind of tough way to be. They didn't help me much, but the thing is I put a lot of years in the union. Then when I got out, I wanted to be union for my guys. So we've tried to do anything and everything we can. A good thing is too is especially since you're talking about wanting to open your own company, think about what Pete just talked about. What kind of message have you got? What kind of message could you come in and talk to your customers about? What kind of message if you started a Facebook group for a company, what could your message be? What can you talk about? Why did you start a company? Why did you walk out from the job you had? Uh, those of you that know me know that I walked out from a company. I was director of operations. I was making over $100,000 a year. I had a truck, a computer, a gas card, credit cards, expense accounts. I had all kinds of things. But I walked out because whenever they talked about doing residential service, they started talking about the things that they were going to tell people they specialized in, like customer service and having the best trained plumbers and all this. And they weren't doing any of it. So it's like, okay, why lie to people? And my thing is, I want to start a company and I want to do things right. Made all the difference in the world to me. Yeah. The uncle says, with channel locks and a 6-in-1, you can do anything. And almost, you're right. And we got Flash Fix It Gaming. Says, hey, Roger, question for you. I do not know if you know about winter plumbing, so I don't know the name of it, but lets air out of your plumbing. And when it's blocked, you have issues draining. Man, I don't, oh gosh, man, we used to put these vents on top of a chill water line, but not on a city water line, but it can let the air out. And I guess that could be good. You could literally put a high point vent on your water line. That way, when you let, I don't know why, when it's blocked, you have issues draining. That part doesn't, I guess when your vent is, yeah, they make a vent. It's got like a Schrader valve in the top. So if it's blocked, you can probably just turn the water off, let the pressure off at a lavatory or something, go to your Schrader valve, open it up, take it out, clean it out, maybe even put a rag over it where you can crack the water back on to blow it out. I don't know how you're going to prevent it during winter. Hi, I've been here from 80K. Dad 529, I love that. God, when was 80K? 80K was August of last year, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, yeah, we've actually had a good year here lately. August to September is whenever we went from 50K to like 125, and then the next month we went up to 175. The next month we hit 200. It was really good in there. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being around. Okay, and you say it's on your roof, and I've never seen a vent on a water line go up like that. Maybe a vent on your sewer line, but not the water line. Roger, what's the best job you've ever seen? It's probably the one that I worked on. It was the Great Wolf Water Lodge here in Grapevine, Texas. I actually got to do the plumbing on it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Indoor water park, and we had a blast. It was wonderful. And Papano says, "Are you comfortable using shark bites?" Yeah, I am. I use them to throw at people. I use them for paperweights. I don't use them for plumbing. Uh, in all honesty, I use shark bites for emergency. First time I'd ever seen them was out at the airport. Uh, when you're doing a remodel at DFW Airport, you've got to have them in water control boxes so you can actually shut the water lines down in case there's emergency, somebody breaks a line. You've got to have a quick way to cap it off, plug it off, put a valve on it. So we did have shark bites with that in place uh, in that box just to make sure in case there was any problems. Trey Baker, how are we doing today? Good to see you in here. Uh, the uncle says best jobs are always flushing toilet magic. It's fixed, or for a low voltage guy to just plug it in. I reckon so. Uh, says, we have issues during winter where it literally forms an ice ball around the vent. What I would think about then is I think there is the one that you have made out of brass or copper. I would wrap heat tape around it, draw the heat tape back through, and plug it in inside the attic if there's any way you can get to it. I like this. Diego Gonzalez says, love your videos. Very educational. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. So, if you're in here and you like what we're doing, you like our videos, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you hadn't, ring the bell. That way you see when we're going live and when we're putting out new videos, because there will actually be a new one out in about 35 minutes. What do you think about getting sworn in? Really torn about it, paying dues to something I won't stay in. Here's what I'll tell you. SG, look, if you don't want to swear in, get sick, do something like that, they'll give you another month or two. How long are you planning on staying in, though? I got in the union, spent about 20 years, got about 24, almost 25 years service, something like that. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't add up to much. It was so much that I could have drawn when I retired. It wasn't enough. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just wait. It may be worth getting in just to see how it goes. You may end up staying longer than you think. Sometimes starting your own company isn't the greatest thing in the world to do. Okay, so if it's on sewer, if it's just a vent, yeah, I would definitely. I've never seen anything open it to let it more though go though. I appreciate that even more at Great Wolf Lodge now. Miranda, thank you. I tell you what, and it's really neat because that is really one of the coolest plumbing jobs I've ever done. And it was neat because I had moved up. I was the senior superintendent, and I helped bid the jobs, I helped sell the jobs, I help everything. But the funny thing is when we got that job, the president or vice president of the company came up to me right after we got awarded it and says, "Hey, congratulations on that. That was good." Says, "You're the only superintendent we got that can do that job." So I ended up having to go out there and do it, but it was good. It actually went really well. Hired my son to work with me over there. He ended up taking that job over, which was great. He finished it up because I went back to another company, went out to Fort Worth and did some stuff out there, but it was good. It says, ha. Let me see. When is poly pipe used in a house? Well, polyethylene is used quite often. That's part of the PEX, is cross-linked polyethylene. They don't use PB anymore, polybutylene. They used to as the yard service. Problem is it reacted to the chlorine on the inside, made it brittle, and gave you problems with it. So not too good. We replaced a lot of that. It's bad, so we don't even use it. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, I used to throw at people. That was pretty funny, wasn't it? That is kind of quick too. Okay. Daniel says shark bite seems to be a topic that splits plumbers. Would you say it's laziness, economic, time, or some other factor that makes plumbers use shark bites instead of doing it properly? Think about what you just said. That makes them use shark bites instead of doing it properly. I thought I had one in here. I do have them. My problem is all I do is really throw them at. Oh, see, almost hit the camera. No, I knew I didn't. Almost. The thing is, look, I've made videos with them, and I know they say, well, pull the insides out, and you only need it for PEX or something like that. My thing is, I just don't get it. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And this is something I talked about in the video just the other day, guys. If a third grader can put it together, why do we need a license? And I don't want that to be my only excuse. The reason I don't use them, we fix so many leaks using shark bites. And what I mean, not we use them, but people use shark bites. We go out to do a repair. It's like, well, this is leaking. They're like, yeah, it's kind of leaked since we put it in. And it's like, well, why didn't you call somebody then? Well, it's just a slow leak. No big deal. And that probably cost them thousands of dollars right there. My thing is, and look, shark bites are great for an emergency. And I've had homeowners call me on the weekend and say, look, I've got a line leaking. Well, can you get to it and cut it? Yeah. Then clean it up, put a shark bite on it, call us Monday, and we'll come fix that. It saves them the emergency call. It saves them so many different things. And man, they never call back. They're like, well, I fixed it, so it worked. Well, then they call back a year later. Hey, man, this leaked. It flooded, and now I'm mad. Well, I told you to call us back. That stuff doesn't work. David says, so I've been doing a lot of irrigation meter settings where I live, and every city does them a little different. Some are deduct, some are non-deduct, and some are 1 inch, and others are 3/4. Why is this? The deduct and the non-deduct depends on if the city will pay or not pay for water that goes through the sewer, meaning irrigation systems don't go through the sewer. Drinkable water is so minuscule, they don't even worry about that. But anything that goes into the house, they figure goes through the sewer. Well, you get paid a sewer fee too, because really that's the only way they can charge you for the sewer. So the whole big thing about it is a lot of cities will pay for or will not charge you the sewer fee on water if you can prove it went through the irrigation. Other cities do what's called estimating. So from I think it's November to March, they say people should not have their irrigation system on, which reminds me I need to turn mine off. But from November to March, people should not have their irrigation system on. So they see what their house average is and they base their fees on that. So there's different ways to do it. I would rather just have a meter and say, look, here's how much I use for irrigation, deduct it, and we're good. A lot of them don't want to do that, though. Raul Duke says, love watching the videos and learning enormously. Thank you for all the exceptional effort. I tell you what, and it's not just me, guys, it's a team. But man, I love what we do. We get to have fun talking about plumbing, bringing people on like Pete. Those of y'all that were here, did you like having Pete Vargas in? I'm wanting to bring in other plumbers. I'm wanting to bring in other tradespeople. I knew Pete had this thing going on. We talked about bringing him in. I love this guy. I think he has helped me so much. So bringing him was great. It's a great way to bring it in. Try this. As you see, we're trying Restream. I love it. I've got comments tonight about how good the video looks, how clear the audio is. So, man, I'm hoping y'all liked it as much as I did. Drain Medic says need to upsize the vent to not freeze. So you think Drain Medic? You think he's talking about a vent on the sewer line that's freezing up? I've never seen that, but I'm in Texas. We don't have that a lot. Joshua Acock says, can I tie a 3/4 inch line to a 1/2 inch supply and get the same flow? No. You're only going to get the flow that the 3/4, the half will give you once it's restricted down. Again, that's part of why I don't like press fittings because they reduce the size on the inside. And the shark bite fittings, if you use the retainer in there or the stiffener, same type thing. Shark bite to me are temporary, like say a hose pipe. A hose pipe. I love that. Gazer, that's pretty good. David says, awesome, Roger. Thanks for the clear answer. My boss couldn't even give me a straight answer. Sean Strong says, why would you be okay with paying a plumber trip, come in and do something you could do yourself? Don't pay a plumber to do unskilled work like using shark bites. Mic drop. See, watch it. Dropped it right there. Manny's right. And I don't get how a plumber can walk into somebody's house, literally cut something, take 2 pipes, stick it together and say there, it's $300, whatever it is. I'd be like, dude, I could have done that myself. They're like, yeah, but you didn't, so pay me. Okay. I don't get it. I don't ever want customers to see me doing something that they could do themselves. I want to be able to communicate with them why we do it the way we do it. But guys, my biggest problem with shark bite is we have gone back and fixed so many leaks on shark bites. I normally don't have to go back and fix a leak on a solder joint. Just normally doesn't happen. Not me get a pinhole in the pipe or something, but I guarantee the solder joints are going to last a whole lot longer than any mechanical joint. Now, I do like Uponor, and I saw my little sleeve here. I love Uponor because it does not restrict the size of the flow. It's expensive because that gum tool costs so much to put it together. But man, I love plumbing, and my thing is, and here's the deal, and I want to say this too about the crimp style fittings. People always ask me, "Well, do you like those?" I don't have a problem with them as long as people upsize the system so there are no flow restrictions. Meaning, if it's supposed to be a half-inch line, make it 3/4. If it's supposed to be 3/4, make it 1 inch. Make it big enough that when you go through a fitting that has a restrictor in it, because when you reduce the size of it, that's exactly what it is. Upsize the system so you don't have that problem. Just plumb better. Just plumb it right. That's all there is to it. It says, have you noticed plumbing has become more specialized? Big Luke, absolutely. We specialize in slab leaks and leak detection, but we do it because there's not a lot of plumbers around here that do that themselves. And I think the fact that they sub that out to other companies, man, that's just something I would never want to do. So yeah, find something to specialize in. You can charge more money for it. That's why in Texas I've got every master endorsement. I can do med gas, residential fire protection systems, water supply protection specialist, the whole 9 yards. But the good thing is at the end of the day, there's not a lot of service companies around that do any of those. So those are calls that when we get, we can pretty much charge what it's worth to really get out and do it. When should an RPZ be used instead of a double check? Thomas, they've got the ASSE or ASSE has standards. It's based on the level of dangers of the chemicals, backflow, back pressure, different things like that. And man, there's a lot to them. So make sure that you study it or you understand it. It does make a big difference. Aaron says, what about the plastic piping they have for indoor use? Well, PEX, cross-linked polyethylene, is for indoor use. It's indoor, it's underground. There's PEX A, B, and C. A is expandable. The new PEX B Zern is expandable. I'm interested in doing a thing on that. So, and it's just, guys, times are changing. And it's really funny. And I want to say this because, and I don't know if I can find it. I'm going to actually try to look for it. Actually, just let me get out of it. Yeah, let me get over here. I actually was watching Tony Robbins this morning, and it was a live. God, let me go to my favorites. Where can I find that? See, I'm used to being on my phone so much I can't even find stuff in here anymore. History. There we go. Okay, so here it is. So if I hit pause here and hit share, come on, and hit copy. Now if I come over here, I should be able to just paste this. And the reason I'm putting this in here is, and this is what I was watching this morning when I was working out. Tony Robbins talking about leadership, and he gets into it and he starts talking about his dad and talking about different jobs and careers and stuff like that. And he says, look, 4 or 5 years from now, he says, 80% of these jobs are going to be able to be outsourced. Guys, we literally need to be finding out how we can specialize in things. What things will robots never be able to do? What things can, business owners not design an app or a system to come in and do? We're making things so easy. Technology, and this is what he talks about, technology is exceeding labor. Meaning, if we come up and they make these better and say, look, these don't ever leak. Or better than that, what they're designed with a leak detection system in them. If this thing gets wet because it's leaked, it'll go off and let you know it's leaking, so you can resolve the problem immediately. And you'll come up with that idea, you owe me a percentage. But here's the thing. When we can start saying this is as good as anything else, or we can build manifolds and everything's perfect, we create the flow restrictor solution, guys, anybody's going to be able to do plumbing. It's going to be, think about it. They could send me a set of blueprints. I could set and draw up how to pipe it in an hour, and then a group of kindergartners could go out there and pipe it together because you've showed them how to do it. So be careful of what all we're doing and what we're getting into, because I truthfully think it's going to start making a lot of our jobs go away. Julia agrees with Sean. Man, something is wrong there. Sean says they don't upsize our pecs. See, and I always do. The Doom guy says I am funny and cool. I like that. Thank you. Dre Medic says shark bite is only good for pressure testing and rough in with caps. I'm not going to disagree with you there. Push to fit connections have been around decades in the marine industry. It's the installer and manufacturer. Shark bite is just a brand. Don't disagree at all there, brother. But most of them that we go fix are shark bite, and that's the only reason I say that. So I get it. The bottom of the rubber lining is loose, and since it's loose, the toilet can move from side to side. Not sure where that came from, but okay. Mr. Gazer says, I've always used soldered copper or compression joints where needed. Only use push fit on your home brew lines. I like that. Bottom of the rubber lining. Okay, I guess I moved up or something. There we go. Roger had a pipe break under grandma's house. Apparently, it was flooding under the house for well over 2 weeks, and it's a dirt clay floor. Mike, man, I've been there. Yeah, it looks like you did what I was going to say. Used a pump to remove the standing water, but everything is mud sludge. How would you fix the issue? If it's a crawl space and there's vents to open, I literally take like one of those squirrel cage fans. If you have a scuttle hole to crawl in, I've taken that lid, propped it up, and slid the squirrel cage right up into it. Open the vents on the outside of the house, turn the fan on, let it run overnight. It will bring so much fresh air in there and blow it out all through it. If you open up the vents all the way around the house, it will force so much air that that air has to move across the surface. It'll dry it up where you can at least get in there and work. Technically, wire nuts are only supposed to be used once, much like push connection should only be used once. That's one of the installer problems, push to connect. I agree, especially when they show you how to take it off. So you would think, well, if I take it off, I can put it back on. Yeah. Sean, you are. Man, that's a perfect one to end on. We hit right at 5:30. Guys, I really hope that y'all enjoyed this today. And SG, you're more than welcome. God bless you, sir. Thanks to Sean Strong, Julie Wakefield for being in here, my moderators. Thanks to Miranda for being in. I really do appreciate that. Ms. Gibson, good to see you in here as always. And a special thanks go out to Pete Vargas. And Miranda, if you're in here and you can put that link up again, I don't think it'll let me scroll up far enough to find it. Guys, if you are interested, there it is. If you are interested in learning to speak, and I got to tell you, it's not just speaking on social media, it's not just speaking on stages, it's not just getting out in front of people and talking, but when you go networking, when you do make videos, or when you just walk in somebody's house, you feel a lot more comfortable because you know your message, you know your story, you know how to communicate with people, and it really does make such a big difference. And of course, my brother from another mother, Mr. Sean Strong. Guys, if you are not in the subreddit group, if you hadn't signed up, please go over there and sign up. Post your favorite pictures, videos, even your worst pictures and videos. It's really a lot of fun. So, guys, I am going to go ahead and get ready to shut this thing down. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of y'all for being here. If you like this, subscribe. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, and you give me a thumb down, Sean, you can take that back. What I want to tell you is I appreciate y'all. I appreciate everything that y'all bring whenever y'all come in here. Sean Strong, you're fantastic. The moderators, you, Julie, Miranda, thank you for everything y'all do. And guys, we do this every Monday, or at least we try if I'm in town. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you all for being here today. And look at Pete Vargas thing. I'm telling you, learning to communicate, learning to speak, learning to deliver your message will make a difference in everything you do. So thank you for being here. I will see y'all next week. I'm Roger Wakefield, lead AP. Oh, we got a video in 15 minutes. Remember that. And if you like it, share it with people. Let them see. I'm Roger Wakefield, lead AP, the expert plumber. I'll see you in the next video if you don't get flushed.